Welcome to Community Church Unitarian Universalist. Whether you are joining us in person or virtually, we are glad you are here. We are a progressive, open-minded, and inclusive religious community. We welcome all who are on a spiritual search for truth and meaning. Ours is a faith in action as we do the work of social justice and elevate compassion in our quest to live ethically, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every being. We believe we need not think alike or look alike to love alike. Our opening words today are written by Lynn Strauss, entitled "'Twas 2 Weeks Before Christmas."
"'Twas 2 weeks before Christmas, and all through the town, not a tall enough, cheap enough tree could be found. The mother, her back hurt, her whole outlook was weary. The father, he drove and he tried to act cheery. The kids' hopes were high as the dark clouds in the sky, as the radio heralded, "Christmas is nigh." On the first day, alas, they returned empty-handed, but the next day a most perfect tree was landed. Get out the saw, don't scratch the floor. Sweep up those needles, look out, there's more. Dust off the boxes, check out the lights. Everyone's helping, no shouting, no fights. Mom and Dad thought the season was work, spend, and clean, but the kids looked as happy as we've ever seen. Each ornament unwrapped brought forth an old story, and the tree fairly shimmered in all of its glory. The hope of the season lies in the love that we share, and the stories we grow up with bring comfort and care. The parents both smiled, the kids' hearts were gay. No eve in the year will be better than this day. Let us light the chalice of our heritage.
It is Community Church's custom to light a chalice, invoking hope and eternal truth to our worship. Please join us in singing our chalice lighting words. And now we'll have time for all ages with the fantastic Cynthia Ramirez.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So I want y'all to pull up and stay a while. I'm going to tell you a little story. It's about Boudreaux, the bright red crawfish. Now, a lot of people don't know that Santa Claus is called something totally different in Louisiana. He's called Papa Noel. Now, it's the same Santa, but when it comes to Louisiana, he has a different way of getting around. So let me tell you about Boudreaux. Boudreaux was an exceptional crawfish, and that his skin glowed bright red. Now, some people say that Boudreaux, when he was little, he drank a lot of hot sauce, and it made his skin glow and glow. Unfortunately, at night, he was radiating that bright red light. Now, the fishermen could see him real good. So he would run around. These fishermen could not catch him because he was real fast. He clapped his tail, and he was gone. Now, all the other crawfish were like, "Oh no, we cannot have that bright red, because those fishermen are going to catch me one day." So they all got together, and they decided that they had to get rid of Boudreaux. He needed to go somewhere. So Boudreaux, they made him go away, and poor Boudreaux had to leave his little bayou, and he went deep, deep into the bog area, and he found this old cypress trees, and he dug deep, deep, deep in the mud underneath the cypress tree, so nobody could see him glow. Well, one night on Christmas Eve, Santa came. Now, remember, he has reindeer and a sleigh, but here in Louisiana, he can't fly around too much. It's just too much trees around. So, and plus, he can't get into the bayous very well. So here, Papa Noel, he has a skiff and 8 alligators. The biggest one, the fattest ones you can know. So he can get and not get stuck in the bayou, so he has them guiding him through. Of course, one Christmas Eve, it was very foggy indeed. And so Papa Noel says, I can't go there. Y'all gonna get me stuck and we can't see anything. And he goes, I wish there was someone like Rudolph, right, to light the way. Tucson, which was his head alligator, said, do you know of anybody around here that has that luminescence or anything? And Tucson says, I think I know. And he says, there is a crawfish named Boudreaux that can probably help you. So Papa Noel, he goes down to where that bog was, and he screams, Boudreaux! Nothing happens. He replies again, Boudreaux! And Boudreaux hears his name. And he says, who that call him Boudreaux? And Papa Noel says, it is I, Papa Noel. And Boudreaux was so happy that someone was talking to him. And he gets excited, he slaps his tail and he clunks his little claws. And he says, oh my goodness. And he was like, we need your help. And Boudreaux just jumps over all the alligators and he jumps into the skiff. And he's so excited. He's clapping and everything. I need for you to glow so I can find my way through the bayou. And so he was so excited. And so he gets on top of Tucson, and he gets to put his little tail up underneath the leather collar of a Tucson, and he's on his way. And he bright red, and he got through, and he was able to get through all the bayous and deliver all his gifts. And he gets back, and Papa Noel says, I'm sorry, Boudreaux, but I don't have a gift for you. However, I know those fishermen are not going to bother you anymore. He goes, why is that? Because when I went to every fisherman's house, I wrote a personal letter. Boudreaux is my friend, and you cannot hunt him anymore. You need to leave Boudreaux alone. And Papa Noel, he goes, that's how I know they will not bother you again. So, just remember, on Christmas Eve, when you see those gators in a line carrying Papa Noel and that bright, bright, bright light of the crawfish named Boudreaux, just remember he was a hero on Christmas Eve. The end.
It's now time for us to light our Advent wreath. The message of the Advent and its wreath is preparation and waiting in expectation of the coming of the Son, S-O-N, the Nativity. Similarly, people throughout time have waited for the coming of the Sun, S-U-N, its solstice and the promise of warmer days. Advent is a time of paradoxes and the fullness of life. The candle lit on the second Sunday is for hope. But no hope is possible without the possibility of defeat, for without it, hope is only dreaming. I'll light the candle, and then we'll have our offering. Community Church Unitarian Universalist is a self-sustaining congregation. The generosity of members and friends enables the congregation to fulfill its purpose in doing the sacred work of bringing justice, spirituality, and compassion to our community and beyond. You can make a donation online at ccunola.org/stewardship, or you can text 504-370-2659. You'll enter GIVE, and then you'll follow the prompts. For online donations, there is a 3% processing fee. You can also just mail it to 6690, mail a check to 6690 Fleur de Lis Drive, New Orleans, 70124. The congregation is now invited to put their gifts in our offering dish. Thank you. It's now our sacred time for joys and sorrows. There are cards up here if you would like to write down your joy or sorrow. And some people may have put them in as you walked in, so I'll collect those. Thank you. And if you're joining us online, you can put your joy or sorrow into the chat box, and we will read them aloud here. So we'll take a minute, see if there's any joys and sorrows. We have a joy and a concern from Lizzie Colleen, who writes, I'm having carpal tunnel surgery tomorrow. Looking forward to healing. Thankful for this loving and supportive community. We have a sorrow from Alan Malone. Sorrow to lose Anne Rice. Liked her very much, but didn't appreciate her writing. I have a joy to have Nicholas here after his appendectomy and spending his energy here with us this morning when he probably doesn't have a whole bunch of it. Thank you. We appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
And we have another joy that we're going to be having a newcomers informational meeting. That is next week, right after service. It is going to be pizza, and it'll be on the 19th, immediately following the service, so you'll just stay. It's open to anyone who's interested in learning more about CCUU. We won't be able to provide childcare due to COVID, but if you have children or otherwise can't attend or know somebody who wants to attend but can't make that date work, just let someone know, and a Zoom meeting can be scheduled. And now we'll light 2 more candles. One. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. Thank you. Yeah, I've forgotten about the ones that may be coming in online. I apologize. Another joy goes out to our tech crew, who's doing double duty, writing and being online and making sure that we can send this out. So thank you very much, you're fun. Okay, this is from, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Niece Shepherd. My joy is spending time with my family and enjoying my day off, just enjoying life. My sorrow is we have just lost my aunt last week, and we miss her terribly. Thank you for sharing that with us. Any more joys and sorrows?
I'd like to light a candle for all of the people who live on the eastern coast who were affected by the horrible tornadoes that came through.
And now we'll light 2 more candles for the joys and the sorrows that we continue to hold until we're ready to share. Thank you, Cynthia. And now we'll be having a prayer for our losses.
Two years ago today, a group of physicians in Wuhan, China, were baffled by the number of patients coming in with coughing and hard-to-breathe symptoms. Our prayer for our losses this morning comes from my colleague, Melissa Carville-Ziemer. O love that will not let us go, witness with us just this one page from the vast catalog of our losses. The people, millions of people, some known to us intimately, some casually, and all the others we know not, except to know that every single one of them was beloved. We grieve the death of so many precious lives. The being human together in embodied relationship, the hugs and the handshakes, the shared laughter and tears, the stories that people tell on the edges of gatherings, the playing and working and dreaming and eating together, the way we can feel one another when we are in the same space, and for the essential difference being at ease together in person makes. It is impossible to fully state the impact of all these losses. We are forever changed. We've juggled and pivoted and adapted so many times, and we are tired and weary of it. And for many of us, the rewards of the work are harder to grasp. We grieve that our healthcare systems are overburdened and understaffed. Listen, it is too much. We are only human. We grieve the loss of patience in ourselves and in others, and the loss of resilience for dealing with the ordinary frustrations of life in community. We grieve the loss of beloveds who have drifted away from our community, children and families and individuals, even though we worked so hard to help people stay connected in this time. It is hard to lead when we don't know where we're going. Harder still when we can't get a good sense of the whole. Come to us, everlasting love. Remind us to come to you. Help us to come to each other in the midst of so much loss. May our coming together be a balm and a blessing. May this be so. Amen. Let us be together for a few moments of silence, gathering strength for the week to come. Our reading this morning is entitled Holiday Inspiration by David Owen. A couple of years ago, entirely by accident, my spouse and I made an important discovery about the holidays. Our daughter was sick on Christmas morning, and after some anxious deliberation, we decided to postpone the big traditional feast we had been planning. Now, at first, the thought of having Christmas without Christmas dinner filled us with gloom. But as the afternoon wore on, our attitude changed. My spouse didn't run to the kitchen to start shelling pecans and basting the turkey. Our son started a Lego project with his new Lego present, and he put it on the dining room table and knew nobody would mind. Our daughter stretched out on the couch and read the new books that she just got while the fire burned down in the fireplace. I didn't have to trade my pajamas for nicer clothes. The day dissolved in a pleasant way, and at bedtime, everyone's blood pressure still registered in the normal range. It was a holiday first at our house. We ended up having Christmas dinner a couple of days later when our daughter was back on her feet again. And by that time, throwing a party for ourselves seemed like a great idea. And because there was no deadline, The preparations were relaxed, and doing the dishes afterwards were not the last straw. Best of all, delaying dinner made Christmas last longer. Last longer than a mere nanosecond. We'll never have Christmas dinner on Christmas Day again. Now, if you accept the idea that reducing holiday tension is a worthy goal, additional innovations are easy to think of. Christmas cards do not have to arrive before Christmas. In fact, they don't have to arrive at all. We are now 3 years behind. There's no law that says you have to listen to your old scratchy recording of Dylan Thomas reading A Christmas in Wales. If no one wants to hear it, skip it. If no one in your house likes pumpkin pie, why make one? And listen, an invitation to a Christmas party is not a subpoena. The trouble with Christmas is not that it's become vulgar or over-commercialized. Face it, by this point, what part of our culture isn't? The trouble with Christmas and other important holidays is that we allow them to get the better of us. We treat them as contests or final exams rather than a time of rest and reflection and joy. There's a simple test for almost any holiday activity or event. When it's all over, will our moods be better or worse? Look, if you can just stop gilding pine cones long enough to make yourself look at the whole thing this way, then the fact that your kids no longer feel like making seed balls for the birds or don't want to gather around making a gingerbread house, it doesn't feel like quite so much the catastrophe. So ends our reading this morning. For what seemed like a really long time, I could not relate when people said they had wonderful memories of family holidays. It seemed like all I could remember was negative. My parents arguing over the size of the tree and whether or not it had too many lights on it. My mother finding fault with almost everyone for almost everything. The drudgery and nagging that went with the cleanup afterwards. My father drinking too much at the New Year's Eve party. So on. When other folks spoke nostalgically about holidays, I hardly knew what they were talking about. And then I grew up, and I realized two very important things. The first was that nobody had perfect holidays celebrated with perfect families. And the second was that there was a lot that was funny and beautiful and worth holding on to from those holidays of my childhood, youth, and young adulthood. Now that I'm able to look back at my parents and my family holistically and with compassion, there's a lot to be grateful for and to remember with love. My mother's never-to-be-duplicated giblet gravy, and she took that recipe with her to the grave. My father's sense of humor and play, the way the long table looked, laden with food and bright with well-loved faces reflected in the candlelight, seen from the perspective of the children's table, and how we longed to grow up and graduate to the big table. The laughter and the stories, my mother's fancy china and silver used only at the holidays, the smells of cinnamon, nutmeg, and allspice permeating the house as my mother and grandmother did the holiday baking, the baking that wasn't for us, but was for the dry cleaner man, the milkman, the paper man, and And everybody who made a delivery to our house got a package of homemade cookies. Us children awkwardly helping and sneaking bites of the burnt cookies. The familiar and beloved Christmas ornaments coming out of their wrappings and being placed with care on the tree. And that feeling that the presents were never ending on Christmas morning. It's not that I grew up and I forgot or am denying any of the negative things that really did happen, but I have been able now to put them into a much larger context, and now I can savor the good. And since it's my firm belief that none of us, no matter what we think we remember, grew up in a perfect family with perfect holidays, this is a good lesson for all of us to learn. As adults, we have choices. We can choose to hold on to negativity from our past and be resentful or angry, or we can choose to view our parents and family members as the flawed human beings they are, doing the best that they can in the circumstances in which they found themselves. Forgiving them and ourselves for our shared lack of Norman Rockwell and Martha Stewart perfection, we can move on to seeing our childhood and youth from an adult perspective and be better able to recall and value the positive things that were really there all along. Now, of course, some people have the opposite challenge from me. Everything they remember is bathed in the golden glow of nostalgia. The past is so glorious and wonderful that nothing in the present can come up to the lofty standards of family holiday celebrations that were set in distant years past, or in the years before Katrina, or in the years before the pandemic. And it just goes to show you that not only are realistic expectations a good thing, but so are realistic memories. Whenever we're tempted to say disparagingly, well, this is not like I remember, it might be good to keep in mind that what we think we remember may not be exactly what happened. There are lots of reasons that people experience holiday blues, and being a member of a flawed family, which I guess is all of us, is only one of those. We in South Louisiana have been through too many storms and disasters that color the holidays for us. Many of us no longer even have the beloved decorations of years past because they've been lost or ruined. For almost all of us, these 2 pandemic years have caused losses that have thrown a veil of grief over what used to be a happy season. Loved ones absent through death or illness or forced distance or divorce. These are painful all year, but especially acute during the holidays. For those of us with beloved partners or parents or children who have died, or intimate relationships that have ended, or beloved family members who are far away and can't be with us at this time, this holiday is a painful reminder of all those who are dearly missed. After my father died, we, his surviving family, wondered how would it even be possible to open presents on Christmas Day without Daddy sitting there on his little stool, wearing the jaunty Santa hat, carefully handing out gifts so that each person in the family circle unwrapped a present at the exact same time. We solved it by plopping the hat on my younger brother Val's head and made him pass out the gifts in Daddy's stead. And so it is that we remember and treasure and keep a little family tradition alive, just in a new way. For any of us with family members or partners who have died, it is a good thing to call that person into our gathering, to say things like, "This is the way your grandfather always liked the stuffing," or "I know that my wife would have really appreciated the way our daughter-in-law decorated the house this year." We always say in UU memorial services that our loved ones live on in our memories and in our lives, and it is right and good to say their names, to remember their favorite things, to retell the stories, and to cry and laugh together. And thus our loved ones are in our midst still. When holidays are upended after a major trauma or disaster or pandemic, some of us wonder if it's all right to celebrate the holidays the old familiar way, or maybe we should wait until things feel better or more normal. But our refusal to hold our beloved and familiar holiday rituals would serve no useful purpose, and would only add an additional grief and loss to all the other burdens we've been carrying. Perhaps the best response we could make to all that has happened is to make our holidays sacred and important and joyful once more, not through spending and commercialism, but through our connections to each other and those we love, through acts of kindness and generosity. I have some simple suggestions for overcoming the holiday blues. And like most of the suggestions that clergy make from the pulpit, it's probably stuff you already know. I love this job. I get paid to tell you stuff you already know. So here's my first suggestion. Respond differently. You may still have all the same dysfunctional family members you always did, but you can act differently. Don't answer back. Don't whine. Don't resort to sarcasm. Whatever was your usual and customary response to the slings and arrows of outrageous relatives, respond differently. Don't let your hot buttons get pushed, and you'll be amazed at how much you enjoy the holidays. Respond differently to the tyranny of gifts. You do not have to spend yourself into oblivion to prove to others around you that you love them. Give the gift of yourself instead. Make a homemade certificate for a back rub or a foot rub, or for a walk down Magazine Street when the weather is fine, or going to see the snow on Fulton Street. There are so many ways to give the gift of time to a loved one that would be much more treasured than any material gift. A second way to chase the holiday blues is to practice forgiveness. Did you mess up the generations-old recipe for something? Forgive yourself. Enjoy the holidays anyway. Did Uncle Harry make those same tired old sexist jokes? Forgive him. He's an old man. He's been telling the same exact jokes for 4 decades. Nothing you can say will change him now. Did the kids act up and behave like all they've had to eat for a week is Coke and candy? Forgive them. You acted the exact same way when you were a kid after eating up all the stuff in your stocking or the candy gelt in the dreidel game. Did you break the last surviving ornament saved from Katrina? Forgive yourself. Make another one. Hang the empty hook. Just let it go. Practice forgiveness and the art of letting go, and you will find the holiday season much improved. Third, bring back old family traditions, or do like my family did after my father died and invent new traditions. If Grandma's not here to make her famous whatevers, gather all the kids and cousins together and use an old recipe you can find online and make it and tell stories about Grandma. Whatever seems lost to you, whatever you miss the most, bring it back by creating new family rituals of gladness and gratitude. And finally, the surefire, never fail, always works way to banish the holiday blues is to get outside yourself. It is not at all difficult. Sadly, it's all too easy to find people in far worse situations than you, no matter what your circumstances are. When you give of yourself in acts of love and service to those in need, you automatically feel better, enlarged, your spirit enriched. And it's not like there's a dearth of need. Sadly, there's many, many people in need right now in South Louisiana and, of course, now in the Midwest. There are so many ways to get involved in our wider community, with the homeless under I-10, with folks struggling to come home and make a home in Grand Isle and Terrebonne Parish, or with one of the many agencies who provide gifts and help to local needy families and individuals. And of course, there's us, your very own church. Our recent canvass did not get all the way up to where church leaders hoped, and there's so many worthwhile and important ministries carried on by CCUU all year round. Plus, there's the planning for an incoming minister. Giving to your church is always in season. You want to overcome the holiday blues? Here's the recipe. Respond differently, practice forgiveness, bring back old traditions, create new traditions, and get outside yourself in acts of service and compassion. If your particular sadness is deeper than the holiday blues, please make an appointment to talk privately with me. I am happy to hear you out, offer whatever help I can, and I can recommend local counselors and therapists. Whatever you do, don't suffer in silence, and for heaven's sake, don't isolate yourself. There's an old story that makes the rounds of ministers as a sermon illustration. A small child is trying to lift a heavy object with no success, and a parent comes in and sees the struggle and says, "Are you using all your strength?" And the child says, "Of course I am." "No, you're not," the parent says. "Yes, I am." "No, you're not using all your strength because you have not asked me for help." Use all your strength. Ask for help if you need it. Chasing the holiday blues can't be done by yourself. Holiday blues can be very strong, so you need to use all your strength. Overcoming the blues is a job for a family, however you define family, a job for a community, however you constitute community. And when we come together in love and joy and practice patience, forgiveness, and gratitude, these holidays can be transformed into the best ones we ever had. Now let us model breaking the mold of holiday tyranny with a litany of recovery. Whatever I say, your response is, "I don't have to do that." Okay? You have to give a gift to everyone that you expect to get a gift from. I don't have to do that. If somebody gives you a gift unexpectedly, you have to run out and get one because you have to reciprocate the same year. When you add a name to your gift-giving list, you have to give that person a gift every year after that. The amount of money you spend on a gift indicates how much you care for the recipient. You have to give people gifts worth roughly the same as the ones they give you. I hear some of y'all laughing. I'm catching some of y'all out. You have to make sure the gifts you give this year are worth roughly the same as the ones you gave last year. I guess you're keeping a graph, Come on, what's your response? Women have to give gifts to all their close women friends. Men never give gifts to their male friends unless it's alcohol. Now, whenever you have trouble with any of the above rules, remedy the situation by buying more and more expensive gifts. We don't have to do that. Let us now join our voices for extinguishing the chalice of our heritage. Oh, you don't have words. Hey, I'm your new minister. It's only my second service. Our benediction comes from Black religious liberal Howard Thurman. When the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are back home, when the shepherds are back with their flocks, the real work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among the brothers and sisters, to make magic in the heart. Our service here is ended, but service in the wider world is a continuing responsibility and an ever-renewing source of joy. Go from here and make peace.